Alright, so this is the long-awaited painting video, tutorial I guess, on how I'm doing up my Night Lords. I have a guy ready to go, and these are the first colors that will be going on. I have Contrast Leviathan Blue as my base color, Contrast Black Templar for the weapons and anything else that just needs to be darkened to break up that blue, Contrast Blood Angels Red, and that's going to be for Legion specific markings, and also speed paint from Army Painter Pallid Bone, because I prefer this one to Skeletal Horde for this purpose. And this one here, though, I will say you won't be seeing it right away. I just want everyone to know that when I'm doing any bone features, this is the color I was using. I just wanted that to be there because not every one of my models use it, but if you see some of my models with a bone color on them, that's what I'm using. So if you'll give me a moment, I will come back to you with these three paints applied, and we can take a look at the next steps. So at this point here, coming back to him, I have all of his base colors on. I also forgot to mention I was going to use gunmetal from Army Painter to do all the metal work, just to get it ready to go, so that when the Null Oil goes on, he is going to have all of that stuff finished in one, basically, quick step. There's a lot of paints being used in this one step, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really take that long. The longest part would be any spots you mess up with your contrast paints that you have to then fix with a white paint before you add the next color. Those do take a little bit of time just because you have to wait for the contrast to dry and then the white paint to dry, but overall really quick. So I'm going to put some Null Oil on, and then when that's done, I'm going to come back and show off the next colors. Alright, so the next step is done, and I can now move on to these paints here. I'll be covering the armor in Cantor Blue. The red I'll just touch up with a little bit of Corn Red just to brighten it up in a couple of spots. And I'll be using some of this Scale 75 Smooth Acrylic Artist Paint. This is Art White. And I'm going to use this in a couple of spots just to bring out things like the skulls. You would also, on my printed heads, you would see I would paint the mask with this to bring out a skull type image. So I will be back in just a moment. So coming back from adding Cantor Blue and Corn Red, as you can see, the model now looks pretty good and is getting closer to that Night Lord's darkness. So what we're going to do is we're now going to continue adding darkness to this blue, and we're going to do that with Dark Ultramarine. This is from Scale 75. It's in the Smooth Acrylic line. It's a really nice color, but I'm sure any Dark Ultramarine is going to work. And just like with the Cantor Blue, we're going to leave some of the last paint visible. That means, like, as you can see here, the dark blue with the wash over it is still visible next to the Cantor Blue, and we're going to do the same thing where the Cantor Blue is going to be visible next to the Ultramarine. And I'll also be picking out the white lenses before I'm done using my white acrylic paint from Scale 75. And I'll be going over the red details one last time, this time using Crimson Red from Scale 75. And I'll be able to, at that point, come back to this guy and show you what he looks like with pretty much everything except details done. So just give me a moment and I'll be back. Alright, so as you can see, this is a really deep blue that's now on here, and I think it really fits the look of a Night Lord. And all we have to do now at this point is go over all the details. So that's going to be doing a little bit of edge highlighting and touching up the metal. Also, the studs here need to be done. But for the most part, this guy is pretty much entering the final stages of what needs to be completed on him for tabletop standard. So I will be back once I have those steps done. Oh, and I guess before I go, that will include plate mail and Altdorf Guard Blue. Those are the main ones I'm focusing on. And I think also at the same time I will just grab the lenses on this guy, which will be done in an orange. I will find the orange once I figure out where I stuck it, and I'll show it to you then. Just give me a minute, I'll be back. Okay, I've now got pretty much everything done on this guy. His armor is all neatened up. His weapon is, you know, dirtied up a bit with a little bit of weathering. I've got the metals. I have orange on the eye lenses. That's the color I'm going with. And I used Fire Giant Orange from Army Painter Speed Paints. I like that a lot. It's really nice orange. And again, these were the colors I used to do the armor, the metals, and the highlights. And at this point here, I'm going to go and do up his lightning and his base. So the lightning is just going to be a couple of different blues. I am going to start again with this one, and then I'm going to be adding little bits of dead white from Vallejo to that, just to lighten it up and create the lightning pattern in a few spots. And for the base, I'm going to start by simply putting a very dark ink wash that I make myself using just black artist ink all over his base. So I'll come back when that's all done. The first step for lightning is just to create sort of larger, thicker lines for where you want the, if I can get that to focus, where you want the lightning to be starting and going. This is how you're going to basically have that bleed out of color in behind. Every layer you add to this to lighten it, it's going to be thinner until it's basically just pure white. So that's the first step, and I'm going to just carry through adding more and more layers where more and more white is going in. And I'm not going to really come back to show you each step because it's sort of by feeling anyways. As you're doing your own lightning, you're going to decide where you need to lighten it, where you need to brighten it. So I'm going to get this done and I will be back. And here we have a completed Night Lord Legionnaire. So for the lightning, I basically just took that Altdorf Guard Blue with a little bit of this in it just to lighten it up, so it's not quite the same as the other highlights. And then just created zigzags of that. Lightning takes practice. You can see I have some spots I went over. I'm going to go over it again and just touch it up one last time because it's showing up way more on camera than I think it is in real life, but I'll make sure of that by going over it one more time. But anyways, you just try to get something that you're happy with, and you just don't get too hung up on it. It takes practice, and even after probably doing a couple of hundred total between this project and my last Night Lord's army, I mean, it's still at times is frustrating. So don't get too worked up and like frustrated with yourself if it doesn't come out nice the first time. Just cover it up and try again. That's just what I keep doing, and eventually you will get something that you're happier with. Usually like for this guy here, I actually even lowered my my mix rate, and I also splashed in a few extra highlights because I do actually think it adds a bit to it having those deeper blues in there just to mimic the flash. And as you can see, This stuff does look a little bit cleaner. I'm happier with this guy than I am with him, but that's just how it goes. Once you're on the table with like 50, 60, 80, 100, because this is going to be large armies of the guys with these all over their bodies, all over the tanks. As long as you don't have glaring issues, it's not going to be a big deal. So yeah, get some little zigzags, and then you just get into all the crevices with this. Sorry, I meant to say that before. Just the pure white. I like this because it's very liquidy, where it's meant for airbrushes, so it makes it easier to move in there. So you just want the darker down below with the pure white just sort of near the center of the forks and brightening up the tips and whatnot. And yeah, that's how I did the lightning. The base is just dry brushed gray, and then I put some weathering powder on it. This is just really old stuff I've had forever. I just want to use it up. That's why I'm using this here. Any weathering powder you're happy with, though. And then I used Dark Reaper around the edge. And I'm pretty happy with how they turned out. And there's going to be another video. It might already be up, depending on how the upload goes. This one will probably be a little bit longer than the other one, meaning you'll probably already have seen 20 of them done together, and they look pretty good, I think. So hopefully this was helpful for people, and hopefully there's nothing too bad about this video. This is really hard to do on a phone camera because you got to do in little like clips and then put them together. So if there are any issues, I apologize. Please let me know in the comments what they are, and I will do my best to make sure they don't happen again while I work out how to get a better camera. So anyways, thanks very much for your time, and any comments you leave, I always appreciate that, or any likes, and have a great day.